Alright, so somebody emailed me, shared me a video. I want to give my feedback on this video. It's about Bruce Lee. The name of the video is called Last Day of Bruce Lee. I'll put the link to the description section of this video. You can check it out for yourself. So I'm going to go through line by line what's going on in this video, and I'll give a comment. So the beginning thing says, Death of Bruce Lee cover-up. And it says 1971 Big Boss drama begins. It says Big Boss budget under $100,000. Worldwide gross $7,831,423. Today's equivalent $44 million. Lee's pay $7,500. Not even 1%. I didn't know those figures. I didn't know that he made so little in that movie. Now it says Lee and steroids. It says some say Lee died from anabolic steroids. Lee, however, used catabolic steroids. Catabolic steroids are anti-inflammatory. Anabolic steroids are synthetic muscle builders. I don't know what catabolic steroids are. I never really knew about that information. And now it says supplements Bruce used are so accessible that they can be found at any bodybuilding store. Okay, so now it says Lee and marijuana. Marijuana annual deaths. Tobacco 400,000. Alcohol 100,000. Legal drugs 20,000. Illegal drugs 15,000. Caffeine 2,000. Aspirin 500. Marijuana 0. And it says some say Lee died from an allergic reaction to marijuana. In the history of this planet, no one has died from marijuana. That's what this is claiming. Lee and Aquagesic. From 1960 to 1997, Aquagesic was prescribed in the U.S. without one death. Aquagesic is 325 milligrams of aspirin and 200 milligrams of tranquilizer. Lee and triads. Lo Wai and Charles Hung, aka the Goose Boxer, are known triad members and are connected with Lee's death. Lo Wai continually had heated discussions with Bruce Lee. During their last discussion, Bruce Lee pulled a knife on Lo Wai. 10 days later, Bruce was dead. I never knew that information. And after Enter the Dragon, Lee said he was tired of working for peanuts and decided to take Hong Kong to Hollywood and start his own studio. Lee's triad bait. Betty Ting Pai was used by triad gangsters to get Lee alone. According to Kowloon funeral parlor workers, Lee was poisoned by arsenic. Funeral parlor workers stated that Lee's hands and feet were black and the left side of his skull was severely bruised. Side effects of arsenic poisoning are severe headaches, seizure, coma, and death. Arsenic poisoning in the 1970s was very common due to contaminated water at mining and construction sites. This type of poisoning attacks all the organs at the same time, which makes it very difficult to detect at first. So, they did mention he had a lot of headaches. He did have some seizures, and he had a seizure, a serious one, before his death actually, and then ultimately he ended up getting in a coma as well. So if it's common in contaminated water, I was thinking if he wanted to take that headache pill, potentially they could have contaminated the water to kill him off. It says Chinese herbalists have used arsenic in medicine for 100 years. It is virtually undetectable until days later, where it settles in their hands and feet. A tablespoon, 100 milligrams of arsenic will kill any human being in minutes. Lee's first collapse was May 10th when he complained of severe headaches, but workers were able to get him to the hospital quickly. The setup: Friday, July 20th, 67 Beacon Hills Road, Betty Ting Pai's apartment. "7:30 p.m. Lee lays down. 9 p.m. Betty tries to wake him, but he is unresponsive. Betty then calls her physician friend to come try and wake him up. She then calls Raymond Chow. Lee is still unresponsive. They then call Queen Elizabeth's Hospital to send an ambulance. 10:30 p.m. Lee arrives at the hospital. Doctors say Lee had an allergic reaction and cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. During cerebral edema, the brain swells internally, not externally. Lee's left temple and side of his head was swollen, which in thousands of cases of cerebral edema and other internal brain swelling injuries, there is no external swelling. Betty and Raymond Chow claim Lee bumped his head, possibly having a seizure from 7:30 to 9 p.m. sleeping. 11 p.m. Lee is pronounced dead. According to many documentaries, Linda, Lee's wife, arrived before Bruce. According to Google Maps, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital is 14 minutes away from Betty Ting Pei's apartment. Yet it took the ambulance 45 minutes to complete the distance. After Lee's death, Betty marries triad boss Charles Hung to stay alive, and for extra insurance has his baby. After the divorce, Betty becomes a Buddhist nun. That's new information for me as well. In Asian culture, gangsters will not kill nuns or priests. Similar situations are currently happening. Brandon Lee mentioned after The Crow that he would look into his father's death. Brandon's prop guy and personal friend was given the day off, and the director called for a 1 a.m. shooting of a scene for the movie. A real gun was brought on the set, and Brandon was shot by a .44 Magnum pistol. In the history of filmmaking, Arnold, Stallone, and Bruce Willis have fired 1 trillion rounds of ammo with 0 injuries. Many authors are waiting for one man to die to release their books in greater detail of Lee's death. And that's pretty much it. I mean, my overall feedback, that was some new information, and to me it sounds possible that the mafia, the gangs could come after him, and they said that he liked to carry a gun around with him. This person said in one of the comments, he said, "I only go to people that were there." Bruce himself said he had a horrible temper. He also carried a .410 shotgun cane and knew how to use guns all the way back from the Seattle days. He actually wanted to carry a gun in Enter the Dragon, but the director wanted to steer away from being too much like James Bond. I mean, this is like new information for me, and it does sound possible. I mean, look at the people now. Look at Trump. A lot of people don't like him, so he needs like the SWAT team. Then he needs the Secret Service surrounding him. People standing outside his tower with guns, bulletproof vests protecting him. Even Kim Kardashian got robbed at gunpoint, and it shook her up. And Mayweather always walks around with his bodyguards everywhere protecting him. It's like when you have a lot of money, you got a lot of fame, there's going to be people out there trying to get you. They even got Tupac. Tupac, he liked to have guns, and he ended up getting shot 5 times. He lived, and then he ended up getting, killed in a drive-by. Biggie Smalls got killed in a drive-by. Or not in a drive-by, but Biggie Smalls got killed. John Lennon got shot and killed. John F. Kennedy gets killed. There's just a lot of instances of famous people getting killed by crazy people. So if he's having a problem with some gang members, it really it makes sense. Gang members and mafia people, they're just used to getting people killed. And I really don't know what else to say. I mean, other than it's possible, and not that it's just possible, but just look at what's going on in this world, all these killings, and how all these celebrities have to protect what they have, how they have bodyguards and they use guns to protect themselves. And Bruce Lee was pretty much his own bodyguard, using his own guns, his own weapons, and even Mayweather is really talented, but he has bodyguards. The President of the United States has bodyguards, and Kim Kardashian and Kanye West and all these people that have bodyguards, Beyonce, bodyguards. I mean, like, this is the world that we live in, and especially when there's a lot of money involved. Um, there could come a time when people are greedy and they're going to order somebody to get killed in order to, profit off the person. I mean, it's just something that's definitely not uncommon. So, no matter if he died, no matter if he was murdered, or if he died from allergic reaction, like they're trying to say that he did, fact of the matter is he died. And that's sad. And his son also dies on top of that as well, which is sad. And just think about it. All these famous, strong people, strong leaders, Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated and Malcolm X assassinated. They killed Socrates because because he had too much wisdom and they couldn't handle that, so they killed him. They killed Abraham Lincoln. They killed Tupac Shakur. They killed John Lennon. There's just so many people that you could just see dying because of their influence. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was actually murdered for money or because of jealousy, because that happens all the time. So I think we could almost assume or pretend that he did get murdered and then just learn from it. How could have it been prevented? Just try to live your life in a way where it would minimize this type of outcome. So if you already know that if you're going to achieve great fame and have a lot of money that you will potentially die early, then contemplate whether or not it would be even worth it. Like if you already know that, hey, I'll die by the age of 40 if I get famous, then kind of prepare for that. Do you want it? Is it still worth it at that time? It's just kind of like the football thing, like knowing that, hey, if I do professional football, I will get CTE and I will die early. Is it worth it then? Same thing with this. If you make it into Hollywood, or if you make a lot of money, you get very famous, that you will pretty much have a high potential of dying early. And then you ask yourself, is it worth it? Sometimes when you see it from the outside perspective and you see it, you're like, well, what's the point? What's the point of generating all this money and getting all this fame if I'm just going to die anyway at such an early age? Then you might decide to live more of a private lifestyle and not work so hard towards achieving fame and getting rich, because ultimately you understand that it's not even worth it. You'd rather live a longer life and and appreciate your privacy. So I think we should look at it in that way so we can learn from it, because if we just assume, oh, he just died from an allergic reaction to some drug, you're not really learning anything at that moment, other than just be aware of taking medications and your allergic reactions. But if you look at it from a standpoint of where he actually did get murdered, it gives us more of an opportunity to learn from his life, not just from his techniques, not just about his physical fitness and his meditation, but about the decisions that he made in his life, and whether or not we want to follow in those footsteps or make other decisions in which to preserve our lives and live longer, but maybe more privately. You know, I mean, that's the thing. That's one of the big downfalls of fame is, you know, you're losing a lot, you know, for fame. You know, there's also a recent interview that Lady Gaga just did, you know, and she was just basically in tears, crying that she misses people. She misses her privacy. She misses stepping out the door and not being followed by everybody, not being known by everybody, and just being able to just talk to people. And she was in tears. You know, she was basically saying, you know, she came to the realization that the only way that she could come to peace is when she's pretty much by herself, alone. Like, she can't be in peace out there in public. She's saying that everywhere she goes, people follow her, and she can't call the police when people are stalking her, and there's really nothing she could do because she belongs to the people now. And it just shows, it's just an example to show some of the drawbacks of fame. You know, like, you belong to the people. Now they could do whatever they want to do with you. They could just take your life away if they want to. Because when everybody knows who you are, everywhere you go, like, they're watching you. And all it takes is just one person that doesn't like you to kill you. You know, you might have 100,000 fans, but all it takes is one fan that doesn't like you and then just kills you. You know, and that's some of the downfalls of being famous. So maybe something that we could learn from this video, and also from everything that we're seeing before our eyes, is that maybe it's not the best thing to be famous. Maybe it's not the best thing to be super, super rich. You know, because what is the point in all this fame and all this money if you're just gonna end up dying early because somebody just murders you out of jealousy or out of greed? Because that's what a lot of this stuff boils down to. And not only did they murder him, but they also murdered his son. I mean, they could say it's an accident, but once again, if we say that it's an accident, what are we actually learning? Oh, you know, be more careful when you're filming a movie so then you don't get shot. I mean, I think it's obvious that there's a lot of famous people dying by homicides, and we need to learn from that. So if Bruce Lee was murdered and his son Brandon Lee was also murdered, I think it's an indication to show that fame and riches is not what it's all cracked up to be. So I think for the regular people out there in this world, I think it should get us to appreciate and value our privacy, and to value our everyday normal lives. Instead of wishing to be rich and famous, we should just be happy with who we are and where we're at. If we happen to be rich and famous, we have no other choice but to deal with that, then deal with it. But I don't see a point of striving after something that's really not as glamorous as they make it out to be. You know, you know, you see a lot of sadness in rich people sometimes, and famous people. I mean, I'll use another example with Michael Jackson. You know, super duper rich and famous, but then they would destroy his reputation and accuse him of molesting children, and then now he has to go in and out of court, and he's all over the headlines, and then everybody's looking at him in a certain way, and it's just, they look at you with positivity, and then it could quickly just turn into such negativity so quickly, where everybody hates you, everybody wants to kill you, everybody wants you to die. You know, so You look at Michael Jackson and his life, you look at somebody like O.J. Simpson, you know, reaching fame and riches, and all of a sudden, you know, he's in a murder trial, you know, and you look at somebody like Tupac, rich and famous, but then he gets shot 5 times and then ended up getting killed in a drive-by shooting. And like, for some of us, that's gonna be our life, and that's what we're meant to do in this world. But for a lot of us, that's not our lives, and that's not what we're meant to do. And I think we should learn to appreciate our normal everyday existence and not mistakenly start to chase after something that really is not meant for us, or and also may not be as glamorous as media makes it seem to be, making it seem like we're so different and so unequal to these people that are celebrities, when they're just a human being just like us, and they got money, we got money, they're popular, but then we're popular in our own way as well, you know, within our family, within our little group of friends. And you know, just to learn to appreciate your life for what it is. You know, Bruce Lee had a great life, but you have a great life as well. So be happy with who you are in your position in life. Be thankful. I guess that's the overall theme of what I'm trying to say. Just be thankful. I think that's what we can learn from this. You know, whether or not all of it, whatever is said is true, I don't know. But at the same time, I don't think it'll hurt to see it as truth, because then we could learn more. You know, but there are certain truths that are very clear, which cannot be refuted. You know, Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. really did die and get killed. Tupac as well. And these are three very influential black leaders. Rich as well. Influential. Bruce Lee happens to be an influential person, and then he ends up dying. You know, people die in many different ways. You know, and that's another thing to learn from this, is that you don't know when you're gonna die. So just live your life to the fullest, and don't assume that you're gonna live until you're 90 years old or 100 years old. Just live your life to the fullest, appreciate every moment, and try to stay away from negative people. Try to stay away from negativity, and don't overvalue fame and money. You know, value your health, value your family, value love. Yeah, because I can guarantee you, you know, I guarantee you that someone like Shannon Lee and Linda Lee, and Brandon Lee, they'd rather be poor and have their father alive, and Linda's husband alive, than to be rich right now with the Bruce Lee Foundation, but then have him be gone forever. You know, so just learn to appreciate your own father, your mother, your brother, your sister, all your friends and family, because that's what's really important. And a lot of us do have that. So rather than striving for excess riches and fame, we should learn to appreciate what we already have. So that's what my overall message that I'm getting out of this video. And I hope that people will find some positivity in this.